there, everyone. What we wanted to talk to you today about from Open Up is just one simple idea. It's an idea that really tries to center us as civic technologists, acting as information intermediaries. So Open Up seeks to empower people and governments through data technology and innovative thinking to become active agents in creating positive social change. And what we realized in having that as a mission is that we have a particular way of understanding what we think a theory of change looks like and what social change is. Central to our theory of change, as represented in this diagram, is the idea that data and information are a real power to do good, are a central tool for doing good. But what this means as people who make data openly available is how we present that data is an act of intervention, and it is an assertion of power. So in acting out that power, we need to yield it responsibly. What does that look like and what does that mean? So there are a lot of conversations all the time or recently about misinformation and disinformation. And misinformation is the idea that centers false or inaccurate information. But as we know, data is the foundation of information. So what is our role as information intermediaries in the misinformation environment? So what keeps us up at night? Many things, and not least of all funding. But there's some central questions that we often ask ourselves in our role as information intermediaries. Is our data accurate? Is our data relevant? But also, what are the risks involved in making available the kinds of data that we do? And what are the dangers or what are the responsibilities that we have in aiding or abetting the interpretation of data? How much do we nudge people? How much don't we? Basically, how responsible are we? And are we doing right by that responsibility in how we act? We think about these questions a lot. How we streamline that thinking into our work is another question. When my team looks at, a product that they've produced, one of their central questions is it clear enough? One of our recent projects, for instance, has been developing a resurgence map of COVID-related data. And I think never has there been a time before where we've been so very cognizant of our role in really changing the data landscape on an issue of absolute urgency, and that's COVID data. But we frequently question ourselves about, the visual representation of data. Are we telling people enough? Are we telling people too much? And, out giving them enough explanations, or aren't we? It's difficult often as the producers of products to try and center users, obviously, and you can do that through user-centered design, but how skewed is our perception on how we visualize data by the fact that we deal with data every day? So I suppose the caution is a very simple one, and that is that every time we put up data in a way that is unclear, it's not just a failure of design. It's not just, a failure of data representation, but it's a contribution on some level to misinformation. And in a time such as now, where misinformation is such a serious risk for people, we really have to be very alert to our role. It's a time for reflexivity, in other words, as civic tech organizations. It's a time for us to think about what our motives and influences are in processes and be honest about those motivations so that we don't contribute too actively to the misinformation that many of us fundamentally seek to try and counter through our activities. So there might be some solutions. Some solutions we've thought about, of course, are to have strong ethics and values and have those ethics and values as the center of everything we do. It's to practice responsible data practices, which includes, a real consideration of data quality and all those kinds of aspects of the data pipeline. It means centering the human but also centering the risks, the real risks of those humans in our design, to those humans in our designs. And it means practicing care. And one thing to think about is as we try and create more sustainable business models, which involve, commercial versions of our products or productization, as we lose less and less control of the data pipeline, how do the risks increase for our users? So I suppose the final call to action would be that as civic technologists, we move fast, but fix things. And I think it's a very difficult balance to achieve, but I think it's central to our ethics. So if anybody has any ideas about practical ways that they mitigate against these risks, or practical ways that they center their role as data and information intermediaries in their work, please let us know. And we're always happy to have a conversation.